All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Oh, so nice. Okay. My colleague, Admiral Kirby, is here. Kirby?
Afternoon, everybody. I'm just not ever going to get used to that.
And I'll say good afternoon to you.
No, it's not quite as enthusiastic. Maybe that's just because of me, not because of them.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, John. I just want to follow up on China. I think from our conversations with administration officials, including Jake Sullivan, there was a clear message that both the U.S. and the Chinese want to move forward beyond the spy balloon incident. My question is, what about the investigation? Where are we? When can we expect the result of the balloon investigation? Will it be made public? And then I have a follow-up on North Korea.
So just to be clear, there's not an investigation going on. There was forensic analysis done on the material that we recovered from the payload of the spy balloon. That was done by the FBI and Quantico largely. And I don't know the status. I don't know whether they're complete or they still have things they're sort of looking at. But I wouldn't expect, and I've said this before, that we're going to lay all that out for the public. This was a espionage piece of equipment, and we want to get a better handle on it, understand it for our own national security purposes. So I would not expect that we would, lay some sort of public summary of everything we've learned. This was a capability, a surveillance capability that we certainly knew and were tracking that the Chinese were trying to develop and to improve. We exploited it when it was in the air, and we exploited the material that we recovered.
And on North Korea, in the context of the spy satellite that they just launched, can you give us an update on where we are in terms of the U.S.-South Korea nuclear consultative group that the President Biden and President Yoon agreed on under the Washington Declaration? Is that all set up? Is it operational? And did the spy satellite incident kick off any elements of that?
The answer to your second question, as far as I know, no, that the spy balloon didn't have an effect on us. You're talking about the Washington Declaration and the consultative group with South Korea. I don't believe that the spy balloon had anything to do with that. I'll go back if I'm...
Satellite, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Spy satellite
that North Korea launched.
Yes.
So I think my answer still would be no. I mean, this was put in place before they decided to try this launch over the weekend. That said, the declaration and the consultative group was certainly established as a result of the continued provocations by the DPRK over so many months here, if not years. And it's a way to help improve our ability to be responsive to whatever threats there might be. Now, as for the status of the group, I'm going to take the question for you. I don't know exactly where they are in the process. I mean, it was announced when President Yoon was here, and the teams have been working on it. Where they are in the timeline, I just don't know.
Really quickly, on the diplomatic side of it, I mean, we know that there's this whole extended deterrence push for both South Korea and then also Japan. And on the diplomatic side of it, you mentioned and other officials have mentioned that the invitation is open for North Korea anytime. But has there been any kind of specific push on the diplomatic side to entice them to come back to the negotiation table?
We have been clear and consistent since the beginning of this administration that we're willing to sit down with the DPRK without preconditions to talk about the denuclearization of the peninsula. We make that case all the time. I don't have the last conversation to read out to you, but it's been a consistent message that we have delivered in various ways to the DPRK, and to date they've yet to take us up on that.
To your left.
Thank you, John. Last week, Microsoft and Western intelligence agencies reported a state-sponsored Chinese hacking group targeting U.S. critical infrastructure since 2021. And Microsoft described it as one of the largest Chinese cyber espionage campaigns. Do you know what has been targeted, and how does the administration plan to address this with China?
No, I'm going to have to take your question. Sorry.
Good.
I want to ask you about the CEOs again that are over in China for the investment conference. We saw that cyber attack she's talking about, the spy balloon that flew over. The Chinese have not implemented the intellectual property protections they said they were going to do under the Phase 1 trade deal. So this level of representation in China right now, does that send a bad message that there'll be no repercussions no matter what China does?
These CEOs really should be allowed to speak for themselves and for their travel. There's never been some sort of fiat by the White House or the U.S. government that the American business executives can't travel to China and can't conduct business as they feel is appropriate. We view our relationship with China as a competition. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about the security component of that, but there's also an economic component of that. You also heard in Hiroshima, you were there, that these G7 leaders, they have concerns about unfair trade practices, employment practices, intellectual theft, and certainly the potential risks of outbound investments in China. And they came away from Hiroshima unified about those challenges presented by the PRC and about acting again according to their own dictates. Every country's got to do it for themselves. We will do it our way to protect national security in a way commensurate with these outbound investments concerns. So,
Is there a timeline?
is there a timeline?
Is there a timeline for when we will address what you're talking about?
I don't have a timeline for that. No.